Hello folks, I'm John Myrie and welcome to the Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. On this week's show we have reports and tips for you from Jarrett McCarthy down at Hayward Bait and Bottle, and then we talk summer fishing with Hayward Area Fishing Guide Jim Leahy. Lots to cover on this week's show, all coming up right after these messages.
The fishing opener has come and gone. If you fished it from an old, inadequate boat, were stuck on shore, or worse yet, didn't go out at all, we can help. Hayward Power Sports has an awesome selection of new Lund boats, rigged and ready. You'll find the 1650 Angler, the 1775 Impact, the 1875 Crossover, and many more. We're offering massive Hayward Power Sports discounts up to $7,500, plus we'll throw in a free storage for next winter. Come see us at Hayward Power Sports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
Riding along in my automobile.
Bumping into things unexpectedly? Make your first choice for collision repair. Ernie's Auto Body, featuring the most advanced collision repair facility in Northwest Wisconsin. With a state-of-the-art spray, bake down, draft paint booth for that better-than-new finish, laser technology for precision frame alignment, loaner cars available, computerized estimates, written guarantees, and documented unmatched customer service, the clear choice is Ernie's Auto Body, south of Hayward on Highway 63 and Nursery Road, where quality is no accident.
Big fish stories come to life at the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. The world's largest shrine to freshwater anglers boasts a 4.5-story tall walk-through muskie that's a half a city block long. It's like taking a peek into Granddad's old tackle box with thousands of mounted fish, antique outboard motors, and historical sport fishing artifacts. Stop in and take a chance on our 50-50 cash raffle. You could walk away with a pile of cash. See the big ones that didn't get away at the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame, Highways 27 and B in Hayward. Open daily, including Sundays, through October 31st at 9:30 a.m. Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering welcomes you to stop by for their great lunch menu. And while you're there, Lynn's also has a great selection of custom-cut meats and sausages, as well as many varieties of snack sticks, jerky, fresh cheese curds, and much more. Lynn's is open Mondays through Fridays from 9 to 5:30 and 9 to 4 on Saturdays. Lynn's Custom Meats and Catering in Hayward.
Today, anglers fish longer. Today, anglers fish harder. Today, anglers rely more than ever on their electronics. It all comes down to catching more fish, and today, anglers rely on Amped Outdoors lithium batteries, period. Visit ampedoutdoors.com today to power your outdoor experience.
We're recording this week down at Hayward Bait and Bottle and talking to Jarrett McCarthy down here. And Jarrett, crappies and bluegills been biting pretty good.
Absolutely, and they're biting good all over the lake. We got some guys that are still finding them up shallow right now with the cool water. There's probably still some bluegills up there spawning. Some guys find them out there on some weed edges, on some cribs, some structure, or what have you. But fishing's been really good for panfish out there.
It depends on what lake you're on, too. I think some of the crappies have moved just out to the deeper weeds of maybe 8 to 12 feet of water. And there's other places where I'm finding them out in the cribs in 18, 20 feet of water.
And we're still hearing some people that are getting them up, in like 2 or 3 feet of water. So it really depends on the lake that you're on and, kind of where you're able to go fishing. But, there's kind of fish all over there right now, which is nice. It makes it, a little bit easier to find if they've got a little bit of fish in every area. But, yeah, absolutely.
And as far as the bluegills, strange thing, I was catching some bluegills the other day out in deep water, and they were still full of eggs, obviously, because you could tell by looking at them.
Yep, I was doing the same thing recently, and, a lot of these bluegills are going to be gearing up to spawn when the water temp hits, 68, 70 degrees, and we get a couple days of solid sun, but, we haven't had those couple days of solid sun to really, kickstart that water temp and get these bluegills up onto their beds or what have you. So, before we had this big stretch of rain, we had gills up on the bed, but usually they come up in waves or what have you. And I think after we had this cool down, a whole bunch of those fish just haven't been able to make it up there yet. So hopefully, I think next week we finally get a nice cycle of weather where we get, 4 or 5 days in a row with no rain and we get some sun, some 80-degree weather. So hopefully that'll bring a lot of those fish back up into the shallows or whatever, take care of business, and then they'll go out to, their deeper water like they normally do in the summer.
As far as tips, catching crappies and stuff, what kind of tips can you give people out there?
Obviously, your number one go-to right now is just keep moving, try and find them or what have you. Usually when you find one, you find a whole bunch more. Another great tip out there is, use bigger baits. We get a lot of people that come through and like using those little 1-inch scope minnows and what have you. And those are great baits, and you catch a lot of fish on them. You get a lot of bluegills, you get a lot of crappies. But, with the crappies that we have in a lot of lakes around here, we get some really big crappies up here, and I don't think people are using a big enough bait. I mean, in the wintertime when people are up here fishing tip-ups or whatever, we're catching crappies on walleye suckers up here. They've got a big appetite. They've got a big mouth, so don't be afraid to throw, a 1.5, 2-inch plastic for crappies. You'll weed out a lot of those smaller fish and a lot of those bluegills, and you'll start to get into that bigger class of fish. So definitely don't be afraid to upsize.
And plastics work for bluegills, too. I've seen very few times where I have to switch to live bait in the summertime for crappies, but bluegills, once in a while, you got to go to something live bait, like a piece of crawler or worm or something, but they'll eat the plastic most of the time.
Absolutely. I mean, when I'm out fishing with my crappie plastics even, my 1.5 to 2-inch plastics, bluegills got no problem taking that thing in, especially those bigger bluegills. And a lot of times when I'm fishing for crappies for those bigger plastics, bluegills that I'm going to catch are all going to be 8.5 and north of that. Bluegills got a fairly big appetite as well. But yeah, some guys are going to be doing some live bait out there this time of year, but plastics are a great option for panfish.
You bet. The biggest mistake I think a lot of people make is they fish too big a jig, too big a hook, number one, and number two, they try to jiggle it and try to make it look real, and a lot of times just hanging it over the side of the boat's the best option. Yeah,
your ideal jig size that you're going to be using out there for panfish right now, on the small side, you're a 1/32, and on the bigger side, for crappies, you can get away with an 1/8 out there. 16 is probably my go-to size for a jig or what have you. But yeah, and on the movement or what have you, even holding it still, we talk about this a lot. When you're holding that jig still in your hand, hold that rod still in your hand or whatever, and just see how much your hand moves, and then factor in how much your hand is still moving with the motion of the boat, the motion of the waves. If you've got a bobber out there, that bobber, especially with those nice wobble bobbers or whatever, if you've got any kind of wave action, that's keeping it moving a lot too. So there's a lot of factors that go into what's moving your bait other than just you.
You bet. And let's talk a little bit about walleyes real quick here. Walleyes, there's still people want to catch walleyes. They want some fish to eat, and walleyes are good. Getting in the summer like this, trolling crawlers can probably be the most thing. Now we can troll on every lake, and trolling crawlers on spinner rigs or different rigs for trolling work probably better than anything else.
Yep, and it's a weighted term when we say trolling, and it's not meant to scare anybody, because I'm sure that a lot of people that aren't used to trolling are thinking, all right, we got to get into it. We got to have planer boards. We got to have our divers. We got to have all this fancy gear. But trolling could be as simple as getting a bottom bouncer and a worm harness and just towing it behind the boat, rod in your hand or what have you. It's not that expensive a setup. Your regular crawler harnesses are going to be $3-4, and your sinkers are going to be the same thing. So when we say trolling, it's just putting a crawler on a spinner rig and just towing it behind the boat. And you could have one rod out there, you could have 3 out there, because it's 3 per angler in Wisconsin or whatever. But when we get into these summer months and those fish become kind of sporadic, kind of all over the place out there, it's a great way to get out there and find fish.
And crankbaits you can run a little faster with.
Absolutely. There's lots of different options to troll out there, and you just kind of got to let the fish tell you what you're looking for. And, a lot of times what anglers are doing out there is they're running multiple lines. They'll have one crankbait, running at X depth. They'll have a crawler harness running at X depth or what have you. And, when we get into the summertime here, a lot of these bigger lakes or what have you, the walleye go out and suspend. So you've got to be trying different depths for these fish. But there are more so lakes around here that a lot of those fish are still relating to the bottom or what have you, and that's where those crawler rigs come in. But a lot of different options to try for trolling.
Muskies, you hearing much there?
Yeah, we're still hearing some really good things on muskies. Fishing has been solid this year. The guys are still getting them on bucktails, top waters. But fishing's been great. Seeing a lot of fish being boated right now.
Pike,
we're always seeing pike up here.
You got a lot of lakes they want you to take them out.
Yeah, I like to see a few less pike up here. We love seeing the big pike. We've seen some monsters lately coming out, but great fish to eat. Great fish to come up here and target if you're looking just to get into a solid game fish that's going to give you a good whack. But a lot of pike up here.
And the last thing, summer fishing, bass fishing's pretty good.
Yeah, bass fishing's been really good. We should be on the heels of really good topwater bite for smallies right now. Obviously, the largies are still fairly up shallow, with cooler water temps so far and a lot of bluegills up shallow still. But, wacky worm combo and, topwater buzzbaits and stuff are doing really well for largemouth right now. So it's been a good bite lately.
Good. And down here at the store, no matter what we talk about presentation, you guys got just about anything they need to set them up and can give them some good tips on stuff?
Absolutely. Some good tips on, where to go, what to use, what you're fishing for. We've got a lot of experience down here in the shop, and a lot of us down here at the shop are getting out, every week, every other week. So we've got a good finger on the pulse down here.
Well, thanks a lot, Jarrett, for taking the time with us here.
And thanks for having me again, John.
Well, folks, we need to take a break right now and hear from some of the fine sponsors that make this show possible every week. When we come back, we'll be talking to Hayward Area Fishing Guide Jim Leahy. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hayward Bait and Bottle is your one-stop for the Hayward area's largest selection of rods, reels, lures, fishing electronics, boating supplies, and much more. Whether you fish for bass, walleyes, panfish, or muskies, gear up for the upcoming fishing season, and if you're getting ready for the spring turkey season too, they also have just about everything you'll need for a successful season. In the bottle shop, you'll find a full selection of beer and liquor. Hayward Bait and Bottle is your one-stop sport and bottle shop.
The Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau in Sawyer County, Wisconsin welcomes you to our Northwoods hometown. No matter the season, no matter the activity, you'll always be surrounded by our great outdoors. What more could you ask for in a vacation destination? Woods, waters, world-class events. Contact us for information on lodging, dining, attractions, events, trail conditions, and more. Order your free vacation guide and start planning your getaway today. Visit us at haywardlakes.com or call 1-800-724-2992.
Get out of your chair and into fresh air with a new Can-Am side-by-side or ATV from Hayward Powersports. Hurry in for a very limited number of select 2023 side-by-sides that offer up to $3,500 in rebates, plus financing as low as 1.99% for 36 months. Meanwhile, our selection of 2024s is huge and offer rebates up to $1,000 and again, 1.99% financing for 36 months. If you enjoy the creature comforts, test drive an incredibly popular Can-Am Defender HD10 side-by-side. It comes standard with a full cab including heat and air conditioning. Looking for a value-priced machine? The Can-Am Defender XT HD7 features a winch, roof, front bumper, and full skid plate. With the $1,000 rebate, your price is just $15,399. Your new Can-Am side-by-side or ATV is waiting for you at Hayward Powersports, just 10 minutes east of Hayward on Highway 77.
Certain restrictions apply, subject to credit approval. See your dealer for details. Always wear helmets, never drink and ride.
Welcome back to another segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors, and this part of the show is brought to you by the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau. For more information on lodging and vacationing here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out their website at haywardlakes.com. Well, folks, we get different guides on here every week if we can, and one of the guides I get on here from time to time is fishing guide Jim Leahy. I had a chance to talk to Jim the other day on the phone about summer fishing and a lot more. Jim, we're in the summer, even though the water temperatures are not really warmed up that much yet. They're still, as we're recording this, they're still basically from the high 60s to the low 70s.
Yeah, I'll tell you, John, any seasonal patterns that I've had, all different this year. I fish the flowage a lot, and I fish grindstone and round, and especially the flowage that I water, and all this rain has the water is super clear still, and the weed bite out there is just hit or miss now. And normally this time of the year you got a little of that pollen, that greenish color to the water that's kind of breaking the sunlight up, and you can get walleye shallow and less than 8 foot of water, even on the bright days, even on sometimes with no wind, but not this year.
Well, no, it seems like it depends on the lake. I mean, even the crappies, I expect the crappies to be moving deeper in some lakes, and some lakes are up in the weeds, and I found other lakes where I'm getting crappies out in 20 feet of water already.
Yeah, I had a spot on the flowage up to about 10 days ago that I was getting crappies in the weeds on the west side and less than 5 foot of water with just a little tiny round bobber and gulp. And on that same day, Tom was out on the east side and getting crappies in 22 to 24 feet of water. So, and that hasn't changed, although my shallow spots actually kind of dried up on me. So I think the majority of the fish are a little bit deeper now. But we were out there 2 days ago and we caught 45. I filleted 16, and we just kept the nicer fish. They were in 22 to 24 foot of water, and it was not over cribs. It was more brush and sunken bogs, that type of stuff.
What kind of tips can you give people coming up here as far as getting out there and catching, let's say with walleyes? Right, a lot of people want to fish walleyes. What kind of tips can you give them as far as catching walleyes once we get all these bug hatches and the summer progresses here?
Well, I guess the biggest tip would be, not to sit in one spot. You use your electronics and move around a lot, be a little bit versatile on techniques. A jig and a crawler is a good change up, although I'm still getting walleyes on jigs and minnows. And if you can fish an area that doesn't have gills, a jig and a leech. If you're fishing an area that has gills, well, I don't like that because those leeches are expensive, and feeding them to bluegills that you're not going to get because their mouths are too small, then that's not a good idea. But, that would be a daytime tactic. In the evening, if you have a nice wind and it's a little cloudy, I would certainly switch up to some flicker shads, number 7s, number 5s if the 7s aren't working. And we're talking shallow flowages for that. Just remember that sometimes follow your majors and try to be in the best spot when that's happening. That makes a huge difference.
Yep.
And just being able to move around a lot, slip bobbers and leeches, slip bobbers and minnows are still effective. So, and that what's nice about that is it gives you a good visual and easier for some beginning fishermen to use. But slip bobbers are a very effective tool.
The biggest
the Clearwater lakes as well. I can fish slips up to about 18 feet. After that, I'm it's just too much line. But anything in that anywhere is from 5 feet to 18 feet. And I like to start out at about half of the water column and then work my way down.
Well, also trolling. I mean, trolling crawler rigs, crawler harnesses, or even trolling a jig, with crawlers on it can be effective, cover a lot of water in the summertime because a lot of these fish sometimes are a little more scattered out, I think.
Yeah, they are. And, I use my bow trolling motor a lot for that kind of live bait trolling. And it's kind of nice because if you're using, like, let's say a Lindy rig or something like that, and you see some fish on your graphs, then you can just put your spot lock on real quick. And then if you have another rod with a jig handy, that you can, throw that out and cover that water a little bit better. So yeah, crankbait wise, I like to, use my trolling motor. I haven't done any crankbait trolling yet. That's a good pattern on these flowage in August, but when the water starts to drop and the tops of the weeds start to die and they're not that attractive for the walleyes anymore, that's when I do a lot of trolling. But who's to say you couldn't do it right now, in the evening? Certainly try it. It might be very effective. And the one thing I will say is the musky bite is actually is really good right now. On high water years on the flowage, the musky bite seems to be better than the walleye bite. And there's just been a lot of really good action out there. We've put a few fish in the boat, and if, looking at the charts, guys are getting muskies.
Well, what do you recommend for muskies? I know topwater baits are always a favorite, especially in the evening or on an overcast day or something.
Well, bucktails are always consistent. I mean, if you have, 2 or 3 people in the boat, what I recommend is one on the top and one on a bucktail and maybe one with a glide bait and see what your reaction is and then make your changes accordingly. But, top water right now over the weed beds is good because you're just not catching any of the weeds because the water is way higher than the tops of the weeds right now, and that's a good thing for topwater bait fishing as it is for bulging bucktails as well.
Early in the day and late in the day are really good times too to make sure you get on some of that bars and structure, because it seems like that's where you get a really good bite. If you're not seeing anything during the day, usually there's going to be a bite in the evening.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, as far as baits go, I have to put in the plug for my son. He makes the flash tail. And last night he got a really nice 44-inch muskie on one. It was a black with a nickel blade. Those are available at most of the bait stores around Hayward. I know Jinx has them, as well as a lot of the resorts on the Chippewa flowage carry them. But they're just a really nice bucktail, and they're well built. And, I put a couple fish in the boat with them, and I know Tom's been throwing them, and, they're a tinsel tail bucktail. He's got all the different colors for these lakes, Clearwater lakes versus dark water flowages. He's got the musky, the black and green, the flowage combination seems to always be good out there.
Well, folks, we need to take yet another break and hear from even more of the fine sponsors that make this show possible every week. When we come back, we'll have the second part of that talk we had with Hayward Area Fishing Guide Jim Leahy. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Hey folks, come on over to Hayward Ace Hardware and check out the area's largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories. We carry top brands like Browning and Sig Sauer, and we have a great selection of the newest and hard-to-find models. We've got a large selection of ammo with more coming in daily. If you need a scope, we carry great brands like Leupold, Hawk, and EOTech, and we'll even mount it and bore-sight it for you too. We even sell suppressors and silencers. And don't forget to check out our Guns of the Week. Huge discounts on a variety of pistols, rifles, and shotguns that change every week. So stop on in to Hayward Ace Hardware, your firearms superstore. Hayward Ace Hardware, Highway 63 North in Hayward, or give us a call at 715-634-8700.
Hayward Animal Hospital is a full-service medical and surgical hospital featuring on-site laboratory, digital and dental x-ray, in-house pharmacy, and online store. Dr. Ostrander has 40 years of experience dealing with illnesses, injuries, surgery, and dentistry. Hayward Animal Hospital offers urgent care appointments and emergency surgery daily. Please call early in the day for these appointments. They open at 8 a.m. Hayward Animal Hospital is located 1 mile east of Hayward on Highway B. Call 715-634-8971.
Hey folks, the Log Cabin Store in Northwoods Beach on Highway K between the Big Lakes has groceries, ice, beer, liquor, and pop, and now has all new tackle and bait supplies. All current antiques and household items are now on sale, and all must go to make room for the sport shop. That's at the Log Cabin Store in Northwoods Beach between the Big Lakes.
If you'd like to have your time fishing be more enjoyable and productive, hiring a fishing guide can be a good investment. Whether it's learning more about fish patterns throughout the year, learning how to use your depth finder to find the best spots and fish, learn how to use that GPS to get the most out of it, or learn better boat control. A day on the water with a guide can really help you to be a better angler, as well as make a day on the lake very enjoyable. To book a guide trip this year or get more information, you can find us on the internet at www.wiscnorthlandoutdoors.com, and then just click on Area Guides.
Welcome back to the last segment of this week's Wisconsin Northland Outdoors. And folks, we're going to jump right back into the second part of that talk we had with fishing guide Jim Leahy. Well, in talking muskie fishing too, water temperatures are okay right now, but at some point we're probably going to get up into that 75 plus degree range. Mm-hmm. I think once you get to 75 degrees, I think a lot of people need to start really thinking about going back to the way we released fish when we first started the catch and release. Very few of them even came in the boat. We got them up next to the boat. We measured them with a floating stick and released them right there without taking them out. If there was a picture shot, it was lift the fish up to the gunnel height of the boat real quick and put it back down. too much handling, and then the higher the water temperature gets, the more critical it gets. But once you get 75, it gets the point, I think, where you start being careful how you handle them and the minimum handling. And as you get to over 80 degrees or low 80s, you go bass fishing, don't go muskie fishing.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, they're just too valuable of a resource to lose, you know. And you're right. And actually, to be honest with you, I do that. You know, I do everything. These muskie nets are so big. You have all your tools right there. You can take the hooks out, get the fish out of the net, you know, hoist it up for just a quick picture. I most of my muskies, I'll be honest with you, I don't even measure. I mean, I don't know what's the point if it's 45 inches or 43 or 46.
Yeah.
You're letting it go. I mean, I don't know. I just can't see. You know, in warmer weather that you need to get a precise measurement. And maybe if you're in a tournament and stuff, but in most muskie tournaments, they don't even have them in the warmer weather simply for that reason, you know. So
there's more people out there fishing today for muskies and for everything else. It seems like there's a lot of people fishing, a lot of pressure on the fish. And I think it comes down to if we could compensate for whether you want to argue it's a sonar, like forward-facing sonar, or if it's this or that. It's just pressure, and pressure equates to, you know, you lose some fish. And we could compensate for that with panfish and walleyes by regulations and stuff, but we can't really get any stricter on walleye with muskie regulations. So now it's going to come down to the individual angler. Do we handle these fish properly? What do we do to try to ensure we're going to have good muskie fishing in the future?
yeah, and you know, there's the thing is for beginning muskie fishermen, there's so much info out there available from local guides, and you know, I know Pete Mena has stuff out there online over on how to release the fish and the do's and the don'ts, and it's just a lot of things that are available. So there's really no excuse for dragging a fish around the boat and posing with several pictures. And I mean, it's certainly nice, but at the end of the day, you want that fish you want it to swim away
You bet.
healthy, and not, you know. And the thing is they all swim away. Do they live? You know, that's the key. I mean, you can.
I think there's
fish mishandled, and they swim away. You know.
Yeah, I think there's 10% of them don't make it, regardless of how they're handled. Maybe.
You know, there could be. You know, and I don't know. You know, sometimes guys that get them on light tackle too, and they, you know, it's nice to be able to boat those fish, but I'll tell you what, if I have a guy with a nice muskie on in my boat, we're not gonna on a light tackle on 6-8 pound test, and it's warm out. You know, we're gonna try not to boat that fish somehow. I mean, because it'll kill it. You know, if it's fighting for half an hour, let's say.
You bet.
I mean, it's a hard thing to do, but on the same token, you know, I think that's hard on fish.
You bet.
A light rod, you know, you're not boating it right away. You know, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but it can't be good for the fish.
They fight too long, basically. Jim, Jim, good to have you on the show here. You want to give out some information as far as guiding and guide service and stuff? Somebody wants to get out with you, because I know you've been up here a lot of years guiding.
Sure. I'll give you my cell phone number, and I do have a website. It's haywardguideservice.com. And that's actually the number for the Hayward Guide Service, and I promote the Hayward Guide Service. And then my direct number is 715-558-9719.
Well, thank you for taking the time here with our listeners out there. A lot of good, interesting information for people up here on vacation and want to catch a few fish.
Thank you, John. See you on the water.
Well, folks, we're about out of time for this week's show. I'd like to remind everyone out there that if you miss a show, go to our website at wnoradio.com. From there, you can link to our podcast site, and the show is also on Spotify and Google Podcasts every week. And also, if you're looking for information on vacationing and lodging here in the Hayward Lakes area, check out the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau website at haywardlakes.com. Thanks for listening, folks. We're out of time, and we'll be back again next week with another interesting show for you.
Listen with me, I'm gonna take you there to our Wisconsin outdoors, our Wisconsin outdoors.
This program has been produced and hosted entirely by Wisconsin Northland Outdoor Communications. Any and all views expressed are not necessarily those of the station.